I went over to a friend's place expecting nothing more than a relaxed visit and some casual time together. It felt ordinary at first, just an easy decision to stop by without any deeper expectations. I hadn't planned for anything significant to happen, and I certainly hadn't thought about how this visit might challenge my assumptions or push me into unfamiliar territory. At that moment, it was simply about being there, passing time, and stepping briefly into someone else's environment without realizing it would mark the beginning of a much bigger shift in perspective. As the interaction unfolded, differences in background and identity began to surface. What started as casual conversation slowly took on a sharper edge, with remarks that highlighted contrasting experiences and perspectives. There was an undercurrent of challenge in the way culture and identity were discussed, as if one worldview was being questioned while another was asserted more forcefully. These exchanges made it clear that this encounter wasn't just personal, it was also symbolic, touching on broader ideas about belonging and self-definition. Gradually, the balance of control shifted. One side took a more dominant role, framing the situation as a lesson or a form of transformation. Words and actions were used to establish authority, creating a dynamic where resistance felt less relevant than compliance. The encounter became less about mutual exchange and more about who held influence, with power expressed through tone, confidence, and intent rather than physical description. The surroundings played a significant role in shaping the mood. Music and setting weren't just background elements. They reinforced the identity being emphasized and set the rhythm for everything that followed. The environment seemed curated to support a specific narrative, pulling the moment further away from neutrality and deeper into symbolism and assertion. Social and political language entered the interaction, blending personal experience with larger societal themes. Statements about privilege, justice, and identity were woven into the moment, turning it into a kind of commentary rather than a simple personal exchange. These ideas were presented insistently, as if meant to provoke reflection or force acknowledgement rather than invite discussion. Internally, the narrator experienced conflict. There was a mix of discomfort, pressure to conform, and a sense of being overwhelmed by the intensity of the situation. The experience felt less like a choice and more like being swept along by someone else's agenda, leading to confusion about where personal boundaries stood and how much agency remained. By the end, the encounter was framed around lasting implications rather than the moment itself. Ideas about responsibility, future outcomes, and separation afterward were emphasized, suggesting a clean break despite the weight of what had just occurred. The situation closed with a sense that something irreversible had been implied, leaving the narrator to process the experience on their own.